You're watching the Juice Consumer Direct podcast. I'm Carson Poppenger here with Jacob Thorpe, and we have a special guest today, Peter Bradford. And we're excited to have Peter here on our show today and just chat about everything that he's been working on, different businesses and entrepreneurial and marketing-based efforts and programs that he's built. Peter is a serial entrepreneur, founder of Cash Network, a performance advertising CPA network. He's also, it's basically working in the publishing industry with different offers. He's been in direct response for over 20 years and in online marketing and business development. He's known for combining data-driven growth and relationship deal-making. He's founded Cash Network. He's founded a law firm now. He's involved in a law firm that's doing online marketing for personal injury and things like that. And he also has a pet insurance brand that he's really building, and we'll let him talk about all those things on this episode. You don't want to miss this. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Fantastic. Do you want to talk a little bit about those, the different businesses that you're involved in now and how they're, how they're unique and how they're, gotten you to this point today?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll do a really quick, 1 minute from where I started and then up to Cash Network so that you can kind of get an idea of where my background comes from and where I started. And it's an interesting little story because when I first started, I worked in corporate world. I worked in corporate for 10 years and I was the trainer. So I was the guy training and fixing everybody's computer. So everybody knew me. I would run around and, be the guy, Johnny on the spot, fixing whatever they needed. And at that time, my friend came up to me and he's like, "Hey, Pete, you ever heard of domains?" And I said, "Yeah, what do you, real estate on the internet?" And this is in 1999, okay? So he's like, "You hear of these domains?" And I said, "Yeah, I've heard of these domains. They're great. What are they? What can we do with them?" And he's like, "Well, I figured out this thing." And I was like, "Figured out what?" And he's like, "Well, I figured out when people don't pay their bill, we can register these domains and then we can own them and we can buy them for $10. It's like owning property for $10. And I was like, "Okay." So he said, "Well, can you get it programmed? We need to automate this thing because, we can't do this manually." I was like, "All right." So I go off, I talk to one of my guys because I'm in IT, and one of my guys, I tell him what we want. And he's like, "Give me 3 days." Okay, he comes back 3 days. I got it done. I was like, "You got it done?" He's like, "Yeah, you just put whatever domain you want in this list and then it will run on we had Perl scripts running on a server. You just run that file. It'll go register the domain. It'll tell you got it." And I was like, "Get out of here. Are you crazy?" He's like, "Yeah, it's all working." So I go to my friend, "Okay, we got it. It's all working." He's like, "What?" So it was crazy, so we put in all of these one-word domains. This is back when, you could get a word like tycoon.com. Or bookkeeping.com, or we owned those domains. It was crazy. So we put in all these words. We had thousands of domains and we were using Yahoo Messenger at the time because that was the only messenger. And so if we didn't get one of those domains, one of our friends on Yahoo Messenger did. It was so fun. And my wife thought I was crazy because I would wake up at 6 a.m. and it's 3 a.m. in Pacific time because I was on East Coast. And that's when the domains would come free. And so I'd have to start all the servers and all the servers would start and I would see all my screens. And if we got a domain, it would just say, "Got it," like that. And it was so insane at the time because, we didn't really even know what we had. We bought thousands of domains. We focused on all the one-word domains or vanity domains. And that's how I started. So that's where I learned the value of, first, it was domains. And then we would buy and sell those. People would reach out to us. I think the most we ever made off of one domain was $225,000 that we paid $10 for. And that was tycoon.com. That was a fun one.
Yes.
And then from there, go ahead.
I was going to say, so, early on you saw, here's this opportunity and this problem that we can, invest in and take advantage of this new, the .com era was booming. And, so many people today are like, "Oh, there's no new ideas, nothing new," but all the time new things are happening. You just have to sort of be looking and be observant and see what problems exist out there and how can I solve those with a solution. And you weren't just buying domains, you guys built an application to do that. and really
Yeah.
fully leverage that opportunity. That's exciting.
And that was before it was, I mean, the fact that someone could build that in 3 days, it's not like you can just vibe code. It was that was, y'all were hustling.
But people are building AI stuff like that today too.
I know. And
They're
now it's
AI
much easier to build
solutions.
those sorts of things.
Yeah. So
well, now you could just say it, right? And
Yeah.
then it would write it. Back then, I said it to the programmer, and then he had to go write it in Perl, and he wrote it in Perl scripts. And then he had to give it to me in a way that I could actually run it, because I'm not a Perl guy. I know how to say it, but I'm not a programmer, And yeah, it was really cool. Like, and the crazy part is the programmer didn't even understand what we wanted it for.
Yeah.
Like, he just knew he got it working. He solved the problem. That was it. So
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
To people,
Fast forward like a few weeks or a month. Sorry, I was just going to say a little story on a domain, because the programmer spent all this time and he's like, "What do you need it for?" And anyway, like, we meet at a coffee shop, and that was where we did our meetings. Because remember, I had a full-time job. This was just for fun. And so he's like, I said, "Hey, we sold our first domain." He's like, "How much?" I said, "Well, what do you think?" And he guessed numbers, and I said, "No, higher." It was like $7,500 on our first domain. He was like, "What else do you need me to do? I'll figure out more.
That's
what
incredible.
do you need?" So it was pretty funny to see his face light up when he solved it.
That's cool.
And then he realized how much it was worth.
Yeah, I mean, what you were doing back then, in many ways, is so much harder than it is today, because there were so few like tech business models to follow and frameworks to look at. Today, it's like, okay, I can see this problem and I can see how we can solve it with this framework. You have a talk with your developer and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know how to build that because I've built these other 50 other applications." And it's like many ways just easier today to do that than it was back then, because you had to just sort of invent it yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's where I started, and that's really where I gained an appreciation for internet traffic, because what happened then, there was no Google. I think it was Domain Sponsor and Find What were the two companies at the time that would pay you per click. And so we had all this type in traffic because we had thousands of domains. And then we were learning how to segregate the traffic based on what people were clicking on or searching. Then we could display different ads on the pages. And then we were getting paid passively for those clicks because people would click on things, right? And then from there, we would put up lead forms and see if we could capture a lead. So then we learned the value of data, the value of capturing a lead. And then from there, we could sell something, because now we knew all the clicks, then we knew this, then we knew then we could present something for them to buy. So there was this natural progression that we just learned without even reading anywhere. It was just like, okay, well, we have all this traffic. Let's figure out how to optimize it and do something with it, So that's really where it started. And then I started a lead company for selling leads to small to medium-sized businesses. And we did a lot of lead gen and learned how to distribute leads and, deal with all the consumers and how to worry about duplication and fraud. And there's so many pieces that people don't realize that go into lead gen. And it makes it complex now. I mean, our tech stack that we use now compared to what we had back then, it's like night and day, just to figure out if it's a good click, a bot click, a this click, a that, like AI stuff. I mean, there's so much to process now. And back then it was, the Wild West. It was so easy, just to generate a lead. So people wanted to fill in a form. Now I think people are more reserved on filling in a form in general. Yeah. So you got to have something compelling, something of value,
Sure.
To get them to want to give up their information, basically. So, yeah, so that's how we got from, my background was from domaining, and then it went into lead distribution. And then from there, into affiliate marketing and having a network and learning the power of email and the power of these mass marketing machines that are available. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of learning. So that's how I got to Cash Network. I mean, essentially, I had my partner that was a mailer, and I had sold my software company at the time. I had a software company that was called One Touch Upsell, and it was from click all the way to refund, so we could track the full life cycle. And then I sold that company, and then we started Cash Network. So Cash Network was the new affiliate network at the time, and I think that was in 2010 when we started it.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of it.
Yeah, we were talking sort of as we began. We had a lot of experience, like been to your office and things like that. There was Jacob and I were in fantasy football league with a few of your associates over the years, and so sort of like a long-standing, like distant connection here. This is like I think the second time we've talked now. We actually connected at Lead Gen World. You and I did at the restaurant, and
like zero degrees of separation. Basically, it's just
right.
like
So two worlds colliding here. So
sure.
Great to hear your background, Peter.
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about like the two businesses that you're building today in addition to Cash Network, because I think our listeners would love to hear about these new opportunities you're involved in.
Yeah, and and again, it's interesting having a window into what's going on in the world of affiliate networks and traffic or offers, and what companies are looking for, what leads. And I think the one thing that I've learned as owning an affiliate network is that there's seasonality to a lot of these verticals that you go into. And that's the hardest thing as a business owner to deal with, because, as you have these ups and downs with seasons for different verticals, you still have your bills to pay. You still got to pay your employees. So how do you solve that problem of that up and down? So what we tried a few different times was create brands in verticals where there was less seasonality, or the least amount of seasonality. And one of those verticals was personal injury, because unfortunately, as people get hurt. It's just natural. They're always going to get hurt, either in a car accident or something, at work or wherever. And so we thought, okay, well, what if we could help those people connect with law firms? Well, my partner, Rashid Ali is my partner, and he's in New York. And he would go to a cigar bar with his friend for like 10 years. Well, he was a personal injury attorney. And Rashid said, well, let's try and generate customers for him. He's on board. Let's set up a campaign and generate calls or leads for him for New York. I was like, all right, that sounds great. Let's figure this MBA or personal injury side out. So that's what we did for 2 or 3 years. We generated customers or potential clients for him. And then from there, it turned into a partnership, because we saw the idea of that no seasonality. It was consistent. And who doesn't want to own a law firm? I mean, I spent so much money on lawyers over the years. It's about time that I can be part of a law firm and make some of that money back, So I was excited to be part of that. And, so my partner connected the dots, and we built a law firm out of DC. So it's called Silverback Legal. And now we're building out our network of legal partners, and we're generating the customers.
That's exciting.
So that's the law firm.
But you're talking about personal injury, and this is kind of interesting, like marketing discussion. I've had a number of people that have discussed this, and we're not sure exactly why. But when you drive through Vegas or into Vegas or out of Vegas, you've probably seen there's like every billboard is personal injury billboard.
Oh, yeah.
And like why exactly is I-15 like the prime marketing place for people that are going to fall down and hurt themselves or whatever? I don't understand.
I have theories.
I don't know if you have any theories on that.
It's all over. It's
Too much
all over,
drinking.
man.
All
It's
the
like any
drinking
city
there.
you go to, really, you drive down the main highways. That's usually what's on the billboards,
Yeah.
So because it's branding, they need their name out there. If they don't know firms like us or know how to market, they use a lot of the old school marketing techniques. That's pretty typical.
So there's a lot of competition in that industry. So you've got to be able to have, the right techniques and approaches and offer to get the response, because they have a lot of people are in front of them with their marketing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you have to work quick. Like the people in the personal injury, as far as the clients or potential people that are looking for a lawyer, when they want information, they want it now. And if you don't answer the phone or you are not giving them the information, they're on to the next one. Like there's zero loyalty in that sense.
Yeah.
They're just looking for that help, right? So
there's a speed to lead and then there's a speed to fulfillment. So you can get to the lead first, but if you're not quick on the fulfillment side, then they'll go and look elsewhere because they're looking for someone that'll get them taken care of.
that's right. Yeah, and that's key. Like even at Cash Network, our customer service is our bread and butter, because we take care of our publishers or our advertisers. Same thing with the law firm. You've really got to service the client. I think that's something that I've noticed is kind of gone away, or you have less of it, is this idea of less customer service. I don't know, we got cheap because of AI. I don't know what it is, but man, I just want to talk to somebody. When I want a problem solved, I don't want to talk to a machine, So the customer service to me in our company is like, we want to be next level customer service. We want people to feel like we're taking care of them. I think that's so important, and we're losing it, I feel.
I think on the customer, I think the customer care and customer satisfaction service has been commoditized, much in the way that we saw contact centers maybe 5 to 10 years ago, how that started happening, things moving overseas to save $1. But the truth is, like, a great customer care team can be a competitive advantage and a revenue generator as far as lifetime value goes, just like a strong contact center can be. If you've got an excellent sales experience for your customer, their lifetime value, their retention, the attrition and churn is going to drop. And it really is something that can set you apart, because a lot of the competitors won't be doing that.
Yeah.
Primarily for us, that's like our ICP, the ideal company that we're working with is a company that understands that their brand is their value and their customers are like their assets, and they want to give those assets the white glove treatment. And that's really our pitch. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking for like a commodity type partner, we're probably not a great fit, because one, we might be more expensive, but two, we're also pretty demanding of our clients, because we also demand that they fulfill these clients and take care of the opportunities that we're generating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It can't be like a race to zero. Like how cheap can I make a sale over the phone?
Yeah.
And just how do we lower that cost constantly? And it's like, really, you can, with the right approach, customer service or sales process over the phone, it could be, if I'm running a customer service team today on a product, I would try to be offering the best possible customer service, but then also, how do we monetize what we can in a path that is going to help just minimize that cost and make it maybe a neutral expense for me, instead of like saying, oh, customer service is a cost center, how do we get that as cheap as possible? Well, then you just end up with poor service. You end up with a poor experience. You end up with, just like you said, Jacob, high attrition and low retention.
Yeah, I think another thing just to add to that too is when you're, I can't remember who said this, but basically every time you talk to a client, it's a time to sell too, right? Yeah. So if you're, talking to your customers, you're learning where their issues are or what we can help them solve. It's another chance for us to find out, is there something else we could work on with you? Is there anything else we can help you with? We might be cross-selling, upselling, doing whatever we can while we have that customer on the phone. So it's not just providing a good customer service. It's also, you can actually increase your revenue while you're talking to them, So I think it's important there too. Outsourcing it I don't feel they do that great. But you know what I mean? When you're sending it overseas, they might not take that chance. They read a script. They're not thinking on the fly. They're not hearing little cues, maybe
nuance,
like we would.
nuance,
and incentives may be misaligned too. If you're paying per seat or you're paying per hour, like, why would that rep go the extra mile when really all you're asking and paying for is the bare minimum?
True.
Yeah.
True. Very true. Yeah.
And so, Peter, you're developing your pet insurance brand, and that's been taken off and doing really well. Do you want to talk about that and sort of what you've seen with getting that off the ground and to where it is today?
Yeah. So, I'm 54 and I don't want to do this forever. So I looked at, talked to my partner, and we have Cash Network, and that's a company that, we could scale to 50 million and above. And then the law firm is something where you can do hundreds of millions of dollars in. And so when I looked at, with my partner, we're looking at, okay, what else could we look at? Because there's always hot verticals coming in. Well, insurance has always been a hot vertical for performance marketing. And so we looked at that, and I was talking with a friend of mine here. He lived in Puerto Rico, and met him, and his parents lived here. And so I got talking to them. Long story short, he had been in pet insurance for 4 years. And I was like, well, what's pet insurance? And he's like, it's the hot new thing coming out. Like it's going to grow from 5 billion to 30 billion over the next 4 years. And I was like, really? Okay. So then I got my brain going. I'm looking up different funds out there, Berkshire Hathaway, all the different funds, they all own insurance brands. And I was like, hold on a second. If I want to create $1 billion idea, I think it's going to be in insurance. And if pet is the next up and coming thing, let's build a pet insurance brand. I don't know anything about insurance, but I know marketing, and 90% of insurance is marketing. Mm-hmm. You know, so I was like, let's just jump in, let's figure it out. You go get your license, let's do it. So he came on board, he went and got licensed. He's a younger guy. And now we're up and running 3 years later with a pet insurance company, and we're, going to go for the moon on it. I think it's something where I don't necessarily want to work in the day-to-day, but I wanted to get it started, and I wanted to get funding for it, and then really take it to the next level. We've got a great board. A bunch of our board members are past big pet insurance brand people and know that for 20 plus years. So it was an exciting opportunity to get started in. So we're starting as a matching service. We're licensed as an agency in 50 states. And then ideally would love to be a carrier is where we're going to go with it.
That's great. I mean, as someone that has 2 golden retrievers, my family loves I've got 2 dogs, 2 golden retrievers. One of them's
some chronic illness.
One has bad hips, and he's going to be 13, 14. He'll be 13 this year. But he has an ear infection the past month or two, and after like 3 trips to the vet and like $1,200 and expenses and medications and everything like that, like pet insurance is necessary for many people, and people love their pets, and the cost of taking care of them is gone up. So that's something that would be in demand and necessary for people. So it's a good product.
That's cool.
And you mentioned it right there. I mean, people, I joke around a little bit that a lot of people like their pets more than they like their family. So, they want to take care of them, and insure them. Because pets can cost quite a bit. I mean, my dog is an older dog, so I didn't have insurance on him. And I think we spent $3,000, in a matter of 2 weeks.
Yeah. Just
on different tests and things like that, So it is something that is important to look at, especially when you have younger, like puppies, or it's a lot cheaper to get them started on insurance then. And they can't have pre-existing conditions. And, there's all these things. I'm not licensed, so I can't really say anything. But that's, the idea there is definitely have good coverage. And there's really good product out there. That's why we do a matching service right now. We're integrated into some really good brands. And we match it based on breed, age, and state. And we can display a quote to you because we're licensed. So we can show a quote right there, and you can actually go through with your credit card and purchase that policy right online. So it's really easy to do. And we had fun naming it. We called it Pet Priority, but we played on the bumper to bumper warranty type idea. We call it nose to tail coverage. So that's our trademark. And, we had fun with creating the logo, and we have our little mascot type idea. So it was fun just coming up with it out of nowhere. And now we have a pet insurance company. It's crazy. I would have never thought.
Something that I think kind of shines through a lot of your experiences is that you're someone who, correct me if I'm wrong, but you recognize an opportunity and you just go after it. Like, it seems to me that has been a common theme in your life, where you say, hey, maybe you get curious and you're like, yep, I'm doing it. And you just go. And I think I think there's plenty of people out there who have good ideas. There are not a lot of people who have good ideas and good hustle. And being able to mix those two things and have the courage and the endurance to do those things is super admirable. And I think that's something that like it's really easy to recognize a problem, and you go into the store and you say, oh, that stinks. I could fix that. And then you walk out the store and you walk back in the store the next week and the problem's still there. Nothing's changed. But when you recognize those problems and those opportunities, and then you jump on them, like that's how the best businesses are built, because you're solving a pain that you've experienced or that you've seen.
And these problems, they exist everywhere. You just have to be observant and look out for them. Like even just this week, I had that got in this habit of like, my wife's been sick. So like we do an Instacart order and the food shows up and it's great, right? The food shows up on the doorstep and we put it away and everything. But what we've noticed is that like there'll be stuff that's like out of stock or that they didn't have, or even stuff that was in stock that we ordered and paid for that just doesn't make it onto our porch somehow for some reason. And I'm like, that's a problem.
Or they'll do a
that's
substitute.
A software opportunity, to do some kind of software or something like that to make sure that you actually get what you ordered and what you paid for. No more, no less,
I've seen them do some weird substitutes too. Yeah. They don't have one thing, so they throw something else in there and you're like, that's not what I wanted. Like, I want a Gouda, not Havarti. Like, come on.
Stuff gets put away and my wife's like, I don't even know if anything was missing because I didn't even, it just went right into the cupboard or whatever. And so anyway, there's problems everywhere. And I think just being able to identify and see that pain point and see an opportunity. And that's why I love, entrepreneurship so much and interacting with entrepreneurs like you. So great hearing your story, Peter.
Yeah, we appreciate you sharing. And
I was just going to say, because I have no fear. It's crazy that what you said, where my passion is building something from nothing. That's my passion. And I'm not, even if I don't know anything about it, like pet insurance, I didn't know anything about insurance, but I'll figure it out. I know people, so I know people that'll know how to do it, right? So that's how I just rely on knowing that obviously insurance has been around a long time. So that back end part of the insurance is going to be just process, essentially. It's not something I'm going to reinvent the back end. But the front end, I can reinvent the marketing. I can come up with the story. I can come up with the branding, with a team. But that can all happen, and that's the fun part for me. And I think, like you said, just my title when I was in corporate was Director of Get It Done. That was my title. So I've lived my life like that. I just do it. Just go do something, make it happen. And I've heard it from so many people, like, mentors and things like that, just action it, just do it. Don't be afraid to just move forward. So that's what I've kind of done. That's been my life, really. So
that's one of our squeeze labels. We call people who are go-getters, we call them GSDs. Get stuff done. And
nice.
And so like all you need to say is he's a GSD.
That's our Eutonics that we speak, Eutonics,
we get stuff done. And I think that's a superpower. Getting stuff done is a superpower. The bar is low in a world of a lot of people who say that they'll do something and they don't do it. It's the person who does it that is going to excel. And I think your career has been a testament to that.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's a good segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about, because anybody that knows me knows I'm not a writer. Okay. I don't write. If you get more than 2 sentences in an email from me, that's an effort, right? Now with AI, it's amazing because, AI can make me sound like I know what I'm talking about and write out all kinds of stuff for me. But before, my brain thinks efficiently. So I want to say things as quick as I can and get that information out. And so back when I was in corporate, I learned a little story from a high up VP, and I think this is where I get my positivity from. But he he basically said to me, I was in line waiting for food, and he's like, "Hey, Pete, how you doing?" And I said, "I'm good. How are you?" And he's like, "Only good?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm just waiting for lunch, you know?" And he's like, "No, you need to be great." And I was like, "Okay, sure." You know, so I think about it for a few days. I go back to his office and I said to him, I was like, "Well, what if my whole family dies? I'm not great." And he's like, "No, that's not true. You're still great. You're just not great that day." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I couldn't stump him. My whole thing was I was trying to stump him. And then from there, I said, I lived over the next 30 years, I had changed my word. So when somebody asks you, "How are you?" I used, "I'm great," instead of saying, "I'm good, I'm okay, I'm fine." We're taught to be mediocre. And you can ask most people, like 80, 95% of people are going to be like, "I'm okay, fine, good." That's typical. You change that one word to something better than good, excellent, awesome, amazing, fantastic, great, whatever, you'll see a difference in that person. So if you're being aware, like you said, be more aware, you look at that person, they might react differently now. People around you that you want to be around are going to be different people, because now you're going to be attracted to people that have upped their game, up their level. They're not just good, okay, fine, they're great. So for 30 years, I have all these stories of how that changed my life because I changed that one word. So what I did was about 6 years ago, it took me about 5 years because I told you I don't write. And I had to hire 2 writers. I put together all these stories. I recorded all the stories. Then I had to have them transcribed. Then I had to get 2 writers. Then we put together the whole book, and I finally, create this book called One Word to Be Better. And all it does is teaches people how to be a better human. Up your game, be a better human. There's no coaching behind it. There's nothing else to buy. It's all story based, so it's fun to read. And I got it approved by the UN and the IOED, which is their mental health and education sector of the UN. And being a marketer, I needed more things to create the story. So I had an artist, a Grammy-nominated artist, do the book cover in watercolor, and she painted it, and I paid for that and digitized it. So I have that as a story. I've got the UN part as a story. I mean, all these pieces coming together as stories. And that's what I want to do until I die, is promote that concept of the Be Better movement. That's what I call it, Be Better movement. Is just be a better human. And you'll attract better humans by being a better human. That's really what it is. And it's pretty powerful. I have 30 years of proof. So
yeah, I was just gonna say I really like the idea of making how you are like a sense of identity and not a sense of like condition, right? Like how are you? I am great. Like I'm great. I'm awesome.
Yeah.
Like, instead of being like things are going okay for me right now, but it's a state of who you are instead of like a condition that you're in at that moment in time. And I like that. I think reframing that question that way is really cool.
People are drawn to positivity,
Yeah.
And I think positivity is like, you're right. We're sort of conditioned to be mediocre or to maybe not sound like we're bragging or something like that. And so it's like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to, go into details. That's like, even if you're bad, you're probably going to say I'm good, but, just being positive and having that positivity is infectious. So oftentimes people are like, they get like dopamine or something like that from like complaining. Like, let me complain about this. Let me tell you about my bad experience.
Victim mentality.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And it really
Oh my gosh, let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
My mom and my daughter. Okay, my daughter was 16. This is motivation. This is what inspired me to do this book. It pushed me. I taught my daughter when she was 16 to be better than good. I told her the whole story. She picked a word. At 16, you don't think your kid's even listening, for one. So she does it for the next year. She comes back to me and said, "Dad, it worked." And I said, "What worked?" She's like, "Oh, I changed the word and it worked." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And then my mom calls me all the time. She was complaining about ailments and friends or whatever, and it's always negative. And I finally had to tell my mom at 70, "Mom, if you're not going to call and be positive, don't call me. And then I told her the story and suggested she change her word. And then she called me a year later, thanked me, and it worked for her. So I was like, okay, that's my inspiration. I need to put this in a book, just to show how easy it is. You can change,
Yeah.
So it's funny that you brought up people are so into complaining and moaning and their life is terrible and all this stuff. And really focus on the good, man. You could be even better. So
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool.
So true. Yeah, so true. Well, I had a comment about what you were talking about earlier with the different businesses you've started, and a thought that I think is kind of what we should maybe call out, because, we get hit up all the time by different types of companies who are like, we want your services to help promote this product or this service, or I have this idea to, build this business. Can you help me? And usually the answer for us, and we've gotten really, quite good at just identifying our ICP, our ideal client profile. And what's not in our ideal client profile are things that like maybe where they don't have the scale or the size or the opportunity that other opportunities have. You have to be smart about what you work on. You could start a business that's like, yeah, I could make, and I always say like with a lot of these things, we'll have like maybe a small solar startup company or something like that. And it's like, these guys, this team's going to make some sales. They're going to generate some revenue, but this doesn't have the scale. And I don't think they have the scale that like this other opportunity would have, and this other thing that we could focus our resources on. And you've chosen businesses with massive scale, the legal personal injury business and pet insurance. Those are mass markets. How many people in the United States have pets? And there's, just tremendous opportunity and scale. And that's really smart of you to focus on those things. And I think for those that are starting businesses or thinking about starting something, think about scale, think about the opportunity, think about the addressable market, when you're looking at these different businesses.
Yeah, and think about
that totally.
And think about the processes that are necessary for that scale. Like, we don't work with a lot of nascent new companies because they don't have the processes to support any type of scale. And you can't really have a partner build those out unless they're doing like a joint venture with you, as you've done with this law firm. And so I think you identified that naturally as you were going through that whole piece. But yeah, I think I've learned this. I think your processes are the foundation of any business. And the more scale and weight you add to the top of that foundation, if it's not shored up, it starts to crack and it'll fall apart. More scale is much, much worse with poor processes. Yeah. And it ultimately will lead to disaster.
Yeah, and we learned that the hard way. So we felt all those pains. Yeah. Sometimes I think, when you're an entrepreneur and, I didn't get my MBA. I went to college and I took child and youth worker. It was all psychology, but I was aware of people, but I was never big on process because I worked in corporate for 10 years and I hated all the corporate stuff, So when I started my own business, I was like, I don't want to be corporate. But then you quickly learn, if you want to scale, you better have foundation and process in place. Because if you don't, like you said, the cracks are there, things will happen. And we felt that, so we started with 5 people and, we tried to scale, and all of a sudden we're noticing, what's our process for payment terms, and who's following up on accounting, and who's chasing down money we're owed, and like, holy cow, we better get some process in place here. We're going to get killed, so it's so true. And a lot of entrepreneurs, do it the hard way. And, it's like when you have a kid, you wish they would listen to you because you've learned the hard way already, and you're trying to explain, don't do it that way because this way is better, and they don't listen, and then it keeps going. So I hope entrepreneurs listen and think about those processes. And now they have AI. I mean, they can ask AI, what processes should I have in place, as a business owner, and it could give you some basic framework. We didn't have that. You just have to, hopefully you hire the right people that know the process. And that's what we ended up doing, was hiring people that have lived in process and brought that to our company. So, we had to learn that, but that's how we did it. So process is definitely important.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. I found that to be true as well. And as we've scaled, we've always sort of had, we are always dialing in our processes and making them better. But that's sort of been a foundation for a lot of basic things that we've always done. Like I was never a human resources professional, but we wanted to have human resources processes and software and documentation on people issues and things like that. Those are the things that are hard for entrepreneurs sometimes to want to deal with because they're not really revenue generating things, but they can save you a lot of time and headache. Yeah. And I've seen in over 17 years in business for us, that's been true. By following those processes, we've avoided a lot of headaches that businesses deal with.
Oh yeah.
And so you just have to, you got to have your processes. You got to have a really look at things from a broad spectrum of, you started off with your degree in, child psychology. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's called child and youth worker, but same.
Yeah.
Child psychology.
And now here you are an entrepreneur and running your business and handling so many different aspects of the business, like you said. So this has been a fascinating conversation, Peter. Really thank you for being here. Any thoughts as we sort of wrap this up for our listeners? Any thoughts that you have that you haven't been able to share yet?
Well, no, I think the number one thing, and hopefully entrepreneurs, that they have to know that they just got to action something, like we talked about. I think that's the number one thing for entrepreneurs is they want everything to be perfect. And I have this rule in our company, if it's 85%, we go live, because I know tech guys want everything to be 100%. Well, if you wait for 100%, the market's already passed and that product's not going to be where it needs to be. So I also know tech guys, when you put something live, they're on the hook to keep it live and keep it going. So that's why they don't want to go live when it's 85%. So I push them to go live no matter what at 85%. So that's, we're not talking about people's lives here. We're not surgeons. So we want our surgeons to be 100%. But for a software or for an offer, let's go.
Yeah, no.
So I think just action and go. Key.
Well, action is the best teacher too. You'll learn a lot more in those early moments on what's working, what's not working, than if you have something fully baked at the end. Yeah, that's right. We believe that. We believe so whenever we're onboarding new clients, I always try to kind of position the partnership and integrations with an MVP. And then V2, V3, and what do each of those look like down the pipe and set that long-term vision for them. Because in this MVP, we're going to learn things about our partnership that we need to resolve before V1 can ever happen and before V1 is worth investing into. And I think that's a good
get it live.
Yeah, get it live.
Love that.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys. That's awesome. I think it's a great opportunity, a great learning experience for people, having entrepreneurs on your show and sharing, and hopefully there's going to be less fear for the new entrepreneurs. I just wish everybody would jump in and start learning, and listening to seeing problems and wanting to solve them. That's really what entrepreneurship is. That's what I feel.
Yeah, it is.
So
absolutely. Thank you so much, Peter. Thanks for being here. You've been watching the Juice Consumer Direct podcast. Make sure you give us a follow, a like, a subscribe.
Yeah. If you have any questions or comments, send them in and we'll get to them. Thank you.